What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be previewing some of the new weapons being added to Destiny 2 within Season 19. Now, how the heck am I doing that? Because Season 19 is still a couple of days away. Well, it's because Bungie came out and revealed the new weapons being added for Trials of Osiris, Iron Banner, and Nightfall playlists, and the vast majority of these weapons aren't exactly new, but rather they're reskins of much older Destiny 2 weapons. So if you're an OG player like me, you still have access to the original versions. And although in Season 19 they're going to have brand new perk pools, Bungie still maintains a lot of the key factors with the original. The weapon archetype, the element, a lot of the key stats, the foundry which tells us the origin traits, and more. So let's start here with the two weapons that are not reskins, and those are for Trials of Osiris. So we're getting the Exalted Truth Suros Adaptive Hand Cannon. Adaptive means 140 rounds per minute, and the Unwavering Duty Suros Adaptive Machine Gun. And for machine guns, adaptive is 450 rounds per minute. Now, both of these weapons, Bungie says, are the Suros Foundry, which means they're gonna get the Suros Origin trait Suros Synergy. Reloading grants this weapon bonus handling and reduces incoming flinch for a short time. Especially for that hand cannon, reducing flinch could be a big deal. But moving on from there to the previews, for Iron Banner, the first weapon here is the Dark Decider Auto Rifle. The original one heralds all the way back from the Warmind expansion. As you can see right here, it is a rapid fire frame, which means 720 rounds per minute. It's arc, and it has generally not terrible stats, but importantly, if you look in the top left corner, it's also a Viced weapon, which does mean it's likely going to get that Viced origin trait, which is very, very powerful. Stuff like the funnel web have it, and that's going to let you automatically reload the magazine like mid-combat off a hit. So definitely with a big magazine 720 rapid fire frame, yeah, that could matter quite a bit. And utilizing this weapon, it actually seems like it has like a pretty good zoom factor. In fact, so much so that I was kind of finding it at longer ranges a bit jumpy and hard to control. That's definitely going to be fixed when you now have access to more stats and masterworks and all that stuff to calm down the recoil. But definitely 720 Iron Banner Auto Rifle could be interesting. The 720s are actually pretty darn good for ad clearing especially, and since it's arc, could we see something like Volt Shot being added to that? That would be insane. Like a Volt Shot 720, whew, sign me up for that. But again, that is the preview of what's to come for Iron Banner, the first weapon at least. The next weapon here is the Gunnora's Axe Slug Shotgun. So, funny enough, the original version, as you can see right here, the one I'm using, this comes all the way from the Osiris expansion, so like pretty much the worst time in Destiny 2. But this weapon was actually updated once before for Season of Opulence. That version had random rolls, so I can't get it from the collections. Again, we have to use the OG version, but it's funny that Bungie is reskinning this weapon for the second time. So this is obviously the pinpoint slug frame shotgun. Overall, the Gunnora's Axe has fantastic base range. Even the original version actually could get like rifled barrel and accurized rounds and opening shot. Like, it was one of the best PvP weapons in the game when it first came out because of just stacking range on range on range. Importantly, it's also arc, so we could see again some Arc 3.0 exclusive stuff going on there, but also it is a Suros Foundry weapon, and that also could potentially give us access to that Suros origin trait, and reducing flinch on a shotgun, especially a pinpoint slug frame shotgun, could actually be pretty valuable within the Crucible. So overall, definitely a more powerful slug shotgun, especially if it gets some good perks. Expect this thing to be pretty highly sought after. However, moving on from there, guys, next up for the previews, we have the Nightfall Weapons. So the first one being added back is the Wendigo GL3 Heavy Grenade Launcher. This is a really interesting one because the original original Wendigo is actually an old school Vanguard pinnacle weapon. You know, stuff like the Mountaintop, the Recluse, these pinnacle weapons completely defined the metas back in the day, and the Wendigo was no exception. It was actually the only gun in the game that could get the explosive light perk. Picking up an orb of power increases the next projectile's blast radius and damage. So originally, this thing slapped. Like if you stacked a bunch of teammates with wells and stuff and you got all 6 explosive light stacks, oh my goodness, the Wendigo could output a significant amount of damage, especially because you would combine it with the fact that it could have auto-loading holster, which means that you could shoot out all of its rounds, go to your Izanagi, whatever, do a few shots with that, and then go back to your Wendigo. It would be reloaded, and hopefully you would still have some explosive light stacks. The important part about this weapon, though, is that the original one actually had blinding grenades, which for a heavy grenade launcher, you basically don't find anymore, but blinding grenades means that if you didn't have explosive light, it didn't really hit for a lot of damage. You really were relying on that perk, and the original explosive light increased the damage by way more than it does right now. Because right now, they've taken explosive light and you find it on a bunch of different weapons, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, etc. So will this new version stack up to the original? Honestly, probably not, because explosive light can be found in so many other places and heavy grenade launchers aren't doing super hot in the meta right now, but we'll have to wait and see. One more thing, however, is that the Wendigo is an Omolon weapon, which likely means it will get that Omolon origin trait, Omolon Fluid Dynamics. This weapon has increased reload speed and stability for the top half of the magazine. But moving on from there, guys, the next Nightfall weapon coming next season is the Jury SR4. And this one really surprised me because it really wasn't that long when it was remade from the original version and was a Nightfall drop. Again, like I swear it was a few seasons ago. But if we take a look at the latest version of it, which I still have a copy of, this weapon doesn't have an origin trait. Like, this was before the days of the origin trait, and you will also see it's back from the days of Bottomless Grief. This was a Nightfall exclusive perk that would drop with weapons, and again, it doesn't really anymore in favor of the Nightfall exclusive origin trait. So the Hung Jury is a precision frame 180 rounds per minute archetype, and its claim to fame is that the stats on this weapon are incredible. Like, the amount of stability and handling and stuff you get are much higher than most other 180 RPM scouts. So it's just a breeze to shoot. Follow-up shots are no problem. Really good weapon overall, especially because it could get very good perks like explosive payload. I mean, I have surplus, but it could also get stuff like subsistence. I think outlaw, stuff like that were all great with this weapon, especially when you're putting on something like a that big one spec. This was a great anti-champion weapon, and in Season 19, Scout Rifles are a featured anti-champion weapon type, so the new Hung Jury could definitely have a place right there. Keep in mind, it is also an Omolon weapon, so it will likely get that Omolon Fluid Dynamics origin trait along with the Nightfall exclusive origin perk, which, remember, is Stunning Recovery. Massively healing you when you do, stun a champion or break its shields or whatever. So this was already one of my most used weapons for Nightfalls for breaking champion shields and stuff. Barrier champions, that is. Now it's going to be healing you on top of that. Whew, that's actually going to be kind of saucy. But guys, that ends the preview. Hope you enjoyed this video, found it interesting, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.